The Detroit Red Wings 2022-2023 season is set to kicking off in about a few hours. They're playing against the Montreal Canadiens, and it's going to kind of tug at my heartstrings seeing two of my favorite teams facing off against each other to kick off one of their seasons. But before everything goes down, I wanted to talk about one player on the Red Wings specifically that happens to be very good, and the magnitude as to how good he can actually be in his second season of NHL play. Let's talk about Steve Yzerman's very interesting first draft pick with the Red Wings in 2019, a guy taken in a spot that a lot of people were super shocked to see, but over time has shown himself off as probably worthy of that draft position. We're talking about the big, mean German machine Moritz Seider, and just how good some NHL analysts are saying he could be. Now, if you need the update, Seider, we've made so many videos about this guy. Look at me, continually making videos about guys we've made tons of videos on before in the past. Last time it was Cole Caulfield, this time I guess it's Seider. But Moritz Seider was an absolute tank of a defender, taken in the 6th overall spot in 2019, 6'4", 205 as a right-handed guy. And it appears that he might actually be starting to play on the left, which is very intriguing because, paired with a guy like Ben Chiarot, I don't know if there's going to be any NHL forward lines that can score significant amount of goals against that pairing. But last year, Moritz Seider, as a rookie, had a campaign for the ages. He won the Calder Trophy for the NHL's Rookie of the Year, getting 50 points, 7 goals, and 43 assists in 82 games played. He also suited up for Team Germany at the World Championships, getting under a point-per-game performance over there. And when it comes to Seider and the way that he's been played, it really is just a mixed bag of everything that you get with this player. He's not the most finesse guy, he's not the most skilled guy, he's not the biggest guy, not the strongest guy, but he certainly is up there in most of those categories. Seider is an absolute brick wall. You try to go out there and body check this guy, and all of a sudden you end up on the ice. It's kind of funny to see that consistently happen night in and night out. Combined with this, the offensive prowess, the ability to read the game, how he's able to quarterback a power play and be the guy at the top of the umbrella, how he's able to make plays and reads that facilitate offense while also not being too shabby on the back check. Moritz Seider is a Calder winner who won the award not just because of the points he produced. Obviously, 50 points in 82 games played is not bad. It's really good, especially for a first-year defender, but it's because of the proficiency that Seider showcased everywhere along the ice. In prior years where you had guys like Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar, for example, battle it out for the Calder, they were kind of there because they produced a heck of a lot of points, not because they were so good defensively to the magnitude that a guy like Moritz Seider is at the moment. It's because they had such high offensive capabilities and they showcased that off with their points. Even recently, you have conversations going on with the Norris Trophy where guys that are getting 80-plus points on the season are being considered for the trophy. It's not necessarily strictly on defensive ability, which dictates how good a defender really is, but it's also a combination of that with his points. So at the end of the day, even though the Calder has remotely been a points amongst the rookies kind of trophy, you still have yourself Seider winning not just because of the points, but because he is so good everywhere else last year. This is why if we go over to some articles that I wanted to highlight here, let's go over onto Bleacher Report first and foremost, because sometime last week, they posted their staff roundtable article, Stanley Cup and regular season award predictions. What they did was they took a roundtable vote of the employees at Bleacher Report and they said, hey, who do you think is going to win X award? And the writings are published in this piece. The link will be in the description if you want to go ahead and read it. If you go over to the Moritz Seider part of the article, take a look at this. It's Sarah Sivian, formerly of The Athletic and the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer, who writes this about Seider potentially winning the Norris. I've been hammering Moritz Seider as a Norris Trophy candidate, and for good reason, Sivian writes. I don't think the reigning Calder Trophy winner will put up the most points next season, but I think he will walk the perfect line between production and old-school defense. And if I know anything about Norris Trophy voters, I just know they're itching for someone like this. We've long debated 2 defense awards, and I still think that should be a thing. Top offensive defenseman and top defensive defenseman. But if we're truly voting for the best all-around defenseman, I once again find myself banging the Seider drum. Pretty good praise for a guy that is only entering his second year in the NHL. You then had yourselves this article, 10 bold Red Wings predictions. Raymond leads scores, Seider is a Norris candidate, and more, published earlier this week by Max Bultman. Now, the article is behind a paywall, so if you do have The Athletic, go ahead, feel free to click the link in the description and read it, but the 10 points that are highlighted in this piece are posted onto the Red Wings subreddit in a comment made by DS Junior 1388. Lucas Raymond will lead the team in scoring, according to one of the points. The Red Wings will have 5 20-goal scorers in Larkin, Raymond, Burt, Vrana, and Kubalik. Detroit cuts its goals against by 0.5 per game. Moritz Seider makes his first All-Star game and finishes top 10 in voting. Then the rest kind of follow. There's a few more things that are highlighted there that I think could make for some interesting video topics as the season goes on, but Moritz Seider is pegged towards making the All-Star game as well as being a top 10 Norris voting defenseman. Now, I'm going to go out there and say it, Max Bultman, man, top 10 seems pretty attainable. Like, I know we just talked about Sarah Sivian's hot take that Seider is going to win the Norris flat out, but is it really all too much of a stretch to say that Seider is going to be a top 10 Norris voted defenseman based off of all the proficiency that he'd showed off from last year's performance? Assuming he doesn't go out there and exhibit a sophomore slump, I think it's more likely that a guy like Seider is as good in his second year, if not maybe just a tad better. I would think that top 10 seems like a pretty reasonable take. I mean, let's go over to last year's James Norris Memorial Trophy voting and take a look at the guys that were there. Starting out with John Carlson at number 10, Slavin at 9, Taves, Letang, Ekblad at 8, 7, and 6, Fox, McAvoy, Hedman, Yossi, and Makar. And then if you want to go a little bit further down, I mean, 11th was Morgan Rielly, 12th was Miro Heiskanen, 13th was Quinn Hughes. It's going to be pretty ambitious to go out there and immediately say that a guy like Seider is better than Morgan Rielly. He is for sure better than John Carlson, but when you take a look at where these guys ended up in the voting, I mean, Carlson had, 4 fourth-place votes and 16 fifth-place votes. Quinn Hughes had 2 fourth-place votes and 3 fifth-place votes, and then the other guys at the end there, Mackenzie Weegar, Falk, Petrangelo, Spurgeon, and Tanev each had 1 fifth-place vote. I mean, it's not really the most unrealistic thing in the world to say that a guy like Moritz Seider could easily break onto this list based off of the reputation that he had garnered for himself from that Calder Trophy win. We all know that the Norris is very reputation-based. There is a combination of points that goes into it, but just the overall feelings that people have towards these guys plays into it as well. There's a reason why we've had, 10 different Norris winners the past 10 years? Some of the years you could say that, hey, Erik Karlsson probably should have won in the prior year, and then he was given a compensation award when another player, like Drew Doughty, for example, should have won instead. It's kind of been a weirder process with the Norris than with any of the other voted for awards, I feel. But for Seider, we all kind of know that if he plays at his absolute peak, and he's playing with a much better player in Ben Sherratt than Danny DeKeyser, I mean, the points will speak for itself as long as Seider is able to go out there and continuously feed it up to Lucas Raymond and Bertuzzi and Larkin. The on-ice advanced analytics actually will improve too, because Ben Sherratt is a much better player than Danny D. Mr. DeKeyser, sorry to say, but it's kind of the facts here. And with Seider being given an extended role, probably more opportunities to reverse hit guys and log 25 minutes a night as well. I think there's going to be a pretty good running for this guy to maybe make himself known in the race as long as he gets like 60, 65 plus points. If Seider wins the Norris, it's not going to be because he scores 90 points on a season. It's going to be because he's so gosh darn good defensively that he really does take over as one of the best in the NHL in that respect, which does carry a high magnitude of importance in the eyes of people who decide the award in the first place. So, talk in the comments all your thoughts about Moritz Seider and the idea of him winning the Norris Trophy, or him maybe even just finishing in the top 10, as Max Bultman wrote about in The Athletic. If you had to place odds on it, what are the odds that Seider is the number 1 defenseman next year, he wins the Norris Trophy, and he walks away with this prestigious award after only 2 seasons of NHL play? Is there a 10% chance in your eyes that he gets it? A 25% chance? Is it a 50-50? Hey, it's really up to him. I'd say it really does depend on the opportunity and what he does with it, but there's been no reason to doubt anything Seider has given us the past few years, so I don't know if now is the time to start doing that. Talk in the comments your thoughts about Seider and the Red Wings. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.